In Photoshop, you can create patterns in a number of ways. You can use the Edit and Fill menu and pattern scripts. You can also use the Libraries panel, as well as the View and Pattern Preview. Now, if you're using the beta version, you can also access parametric filters. You can find that in Filter and Parametric Filters. And here, if you just go over here to the parametric filters, you'll notice Pattern. And that's what I'm using at this precise moment. But let's go right to the beginning. I've got this image here. So go over here to the parametric filters and click Pattern. It takes a few seconds to process, but it will apply it. There you get that. The default, I think, is slightly odd. It's 10 and 10. Of course, ends up reducing it to 100 images of that pattern design that was there before. Well, what you can do, you can go over here and you can use the sliders. Personally, I find them a bit too rapid. 73, you end up with something like that, which can be used to create some interesting designs, but not what I want. So just enter the value here. Find that much easier to use. And gain 2 or whatever. You can also go, of course, for 3 and 3. Now, it's not the quickest. I have to say there's always a slight lag as it processes it, sends information back and forth. However, once you've got this, you can also go to pattern size as well. Now, pattern size is a real good one. If you put it, say, 0.5, and again, you could use the slider, but personally, I prefer just to enter 0.5. You can see what happens. It reduces it by half, and then you get these gaps appearing. Obviously, because I haven't entered the vertical, there's no gaps there. But if I go over here and enter 0.5, you get gaps there as well. So you've got the image, you've got exactly the same as before, but now it's reduced down and you've got this gap between them. And it's obviously the space there is exactly the same as that. Now, once you've done that, you can go over here and you can say 0.75. So you can change it in a variety of ways, and you can, of course, that will extend it out, and of course, the gap will get slightly smaller there, or 0.75. And again, happens there as well. Also, what you can do, you've got size random. There's quite a lot of random features in this parametric filter. So with this, you can enter a value or use a slider. It's not too bad with the sliders this time. So if you do that, you can see the size is randomized. You can see that one is bigger than that. And increase that, obviously it makes it bigger. And again, you've randomized, you've got the different size there, different size again there. And also you can do for Y as well. So you can reduce it down and you can see you get slightly bigger ones up there. And you've got stretch ones there and slightly smaller ones there and so on. Variety of different options just by using size random. Also, you can go for offset. So let's just push this back to no range. So it makes it easy to see when you do these things. So offset, let's just increase that and it will shift. And it just shifts there for per row and also there the column as well. So it just moves it across, which is fine. I think that's a really useful feature and useful for something like maybe brick fills, I guess. And you can change offset and you can see as you do that. Now it seems to be only for the horizontal. Doesn't seem to be doing it for vertical until you click here. I think it's slightly odd. I don't know why they didn't just add a vertical offset feature, a slider. So let's just click there, vertical now, and so you can see it's now done vertically and not horizontally. It does appear then you can't have both. So let's just click that, and also you can return that to 0. Well, what you can then do, position random. This one gives a nice bit of randomization, so let's just change that. If you do that, you can see now it shifts by 0.27 in the horizontal. And you can see then you get some little bit of overlap there. So let's just push that a bit more. And again crossing over some of them as well. And you can see you can do all kinds of things. That doesn't go up too much, only goes up to 1. That's the maximum it goes to. But you can see you can create some interesting sort of overlapping effects with your pattern designs. Also, you can do the Y as well. That was just for the horizontal. If you go for random there, you can see it will overlap in the vertical. And you can, of course, make certain X and Y are both set to create a sort of higgledy-piggledy sort of selection of pattern designs. What you can also do is And I'm just going to reduce those back down to 0. It's always easy just to show with them all set. Now, the sliders do occasionally, if you drag them, they just won't move. That is why I always find that it's easier to enter the value in the edit field. But if you try and move it, sometimes it will just resist. It will just not go back. Found that a few times. Also, rotation. Let's just change this. Now, the rotation is slightly odd. Let's just put it to 45. 45 obviously should be a diagonal. See, it's just turned 45. Actually, it looks like it's a bit of a shearing effect as well. It's sort of gone slightly odd. But still, let's go with 90. So obviously that should be just turning it like that. If I go to 0, let's put it back to 0. And like that. I don't think the angle seems to work exactly in the way that I think it should. If you put 360, it should keep it as is. Yes, that seems to be the thing. But it does definitely look very odd when you got it at 45. It seems to have a slightly odd angle to that. Maybe it's just me. However, what you can also do is rotation random. So let's just put that down to 0. And you can just enter, say, 0.26. The values are very odd. So 0.26, obviously that does not look like 26 degrees or anything. This is obviously a percentage that it's decided between 360, I guess. You can see there that one's 45, but this one might be, yes, probably 90. I think it's basically most of these commands, these options, you really got to look at and say, it's a rough idea. You can turn it, change it, but does it mean particularly anything on the screen? Also, you got random mask. This one is slightly odd. This one is odd. So let's just push that back to 0. So you've got exactly the standard, all these things there, and let's bring the properties there. Random mask. If I just change that to 0.13, nothing appears to happen. If you go to 0.48, then mysteriously a couple of them vanish. It's a bit of an odd feature. What would have been nicer? Perhaps, maybe, I don't know, maybe a percentage. So you could say that you want 20% of them to remain, but then it's random as well. But it's again, it's one of those sliders you can play around with and remove. So you can see at 0.69, it's removed virtually all of them. It's just masking them out. They're gone. And at 0.86, they're all gone. Surely they should all just only vanish when they get to 1. But that is the random mask. Also, you notice at the bottom, you've got the scale feature. I think this is great because what you can do, you can just turn around and reduce that down. Again, the control is not the best for manipulation. I would suggest entering a value. So 0.7, so what you can see, 0.7, it reduces down. 0.5, that's going to half it. So 0.5, you should see here, because we had 9. Yeah. So you've got 3, and you've got this new 3 over here. So you can see what it's done. It's halved it. And of course, if you go for 0.25, let's just go for 0.25. And scale, you can see now, yes, we've got a quarter of the size of what we had before. So you can see you can create some interesting pattern designs that way. Also, offset. Though, again, one of those weird things, I'm not certain why they didn't add a scale X and Y. That would have been useful, but unfortunately it's just scale, so it just scales it in X and Y at the same time. But you've got offset X and offset Y and rotation. Now let's go and enter a value, say 2. And you can see it just offsets, it just moves it across slightly. So you want to say shift it, you can do that. Whether that's 2 units of something, I'm not certain. Maybe 2 of these, I don't know. But certainly you can enter values, and you can see 4, so it just shifts it again. Very hard to determine exactly what it's moving it by. Offset again, this one, 3, shifts it down. And then rotation, let's put 45. And again, it has that slightly odd rotation. Very strange. Also, you've got this repeat option, which is a bit of a weird feature. If you go here and enter 2, you can see it's repeated, which basically is much the same as the offset as far as I can, the scale. And repeat there too. Just creates more of these, obviously smaller. But you can see now you can create a variety of different designs. You can also reset it. Weirdly, it doesn't reset all of the transforms. It only resets the repeat, which seems a quirky feature. Personally, I think reset really should reset all of these. But let's just put this back to 1, like that, so you can see it, and also offset again, turn that to 0 and 0. And you get that design. And again, you can, of course, combine these in all different ways. So you've got rotation random. Let's just put that. So it's rotated there. Also rotation itself. Also Y and X. And then let's go for offset, a little bit offset. And also X and Y. Size random, so you can reduce them down, squeeze them slightly, shrink them, and so on. You can see actually when you apply that, near enough starts to look like a 3-dimensional sort of rotation of these designs. You've got this overlap here, down here, and you can see the one below. It sort of like looks below and sort of going off at an angle. Very strange. And also again, you can still modify this. So X and Y. So let's just go 4 and enter that. And you can see it obviously makes slightly smaller. One thing I would love to see maybe would have been an additional feature for multiple duplications, because it would be great to just fill the entire design. It's actually quite, unless you make them obviously much larger, it will not fill the image you've got. You just get smaller ones, but you've got lots of gaps here, which you can also use. And that's the key thing about these parametric filters. They're smart filters, applied straight away as smart filters. They're not in the usual sense of filters up here. They're smart filters from start. So if you go to layers, let's show layers here. Here's the layers. Weirdly, it creates, I don't know where that one's come from. That shouldn't be there. I think that's odd. This one, background copy. That's what it creates. And you can see there, I've got a background copy there as well. If you apply it multiple times and undo and all those sorts of things, quite often it seems to leave the last one there. I find that fine, but let's just remove that. Yes, don't want that. But what you should get is this and this. So you get 2 layers. You get the original, and also you get the background one. Obviously it's called background there, so it's background copy 2. And also you get the smart filter. Say you decide you want to edit this parametric filter. Well, as it's a smart filter, you can simply go over here and you can just double click, and that will bring up the properties again. So double click. Here's the properties. You can also click randomize, because there's a lot of random features in here. I've done size random, etc. Random, rotation random. So click randomize, and that will regenerate it again. So you can create a variety of different designs simply by clicking randomize, and it just generates a different seed each and every time. Now you can also, of course, simply go in there and enter something like that instead, and you get that once you've tabbed off. And you can, of course, modify it in numerous ways again with changing rotation, X, Y random, etc. And at any point, you can also modify the background. So let's just go now to the background and just change it. So filter and down to blur and maybe Gaussian blur, and click OK. Now you notice what happens. Nothing with this layer. So this layer is totally untouched. They're not linked. So this is a copy. If it was linked, it would be really nice if it was, or there was a feature to do that. Unfortunately, there isn't. It doesn't update it. So this is totally as before. That's using the original image. Any other additions here will not change it. So again, you can always go back to the background copy, and again, any point, just double click parametric and just change it again. Just tweak the settings like that, maybe reduce that down, and so on to create even more copies of your design. But again, it is the original design, not this blurred effect behind there. But also what you can do, because it's a layer, it's generated a layer, it's not combined into the same background image. What you can then do is go down here to effects, so click there, maybe go for drop shadow. So drop shadow, got drop shadow there, you've got all the different settings. Obviously the settings will be different for you, and click OK. So you've now got a lovely 3-dimensional effect with a shadow as well. And of course, because it's a layer, you can always right click, and you've got options here for duplicate layer. So duplicate it, click OK, and you've got obviously there exactly the same as before, but the parametric filter here is different from this one. So you can double click here and click randomize. And you see now what happens. You've got the randomized design there, and again you can close it. So once closed, let's just close that. You've got that effect. So you've got more, you can add them on top of each other. And of course you can apply other filter effects as well. So you've got this one. You can always go filter, and let's just go down to say distort, and maybe twirl. So twirl effect, and I'm just going to push it to that high, maybe about 130, 139. So click OK. And you can see now to your pattern design, you've added a twirl effect. So it's all dragged around in a sort of whirlpool effect. And of course you can apply other ones as well. So filters, stylize, and oil paint to create a lovely oil paint effect on top of that. Let's just increase that. And you can see there now, they're all turned into a sort of oil paint effect. So click OK on top of course, that other layer, which is totally untouched. And also, you've course, still got the background, which of course you can always use to create another pattern. So you can always go here, click pattern again, and that will generate its own unique set of patterns. And again, you can modify the size and all the various rotations, all those sorts of things. Unfortunately, there's no way of storing preset. I think that's a slightly, again, odd feature that they've missed off. It would be nice if you could save a preset, so you could have, say, 10 or 15 presets, which you can then click. Otherwise, of course, you have to go through these and again, modify these settings, offset, etc., position random and rotation random, and so on with those designs at the back. And again, close that, and you can see it's created yet another one there. You've still got the totally untouched background design, but you've now got the background copy generated there as well. So you've got now 3 additional layers in total, as well as that background. Now this time, this one is actually using any modifications to the background because, of course, that was done later. And there is a very quick way of creating a very interesting, unusual pattern design in Photoshop. And of course, I've used a very intense image, but you could use any image with this, maybe type, maybe shapes, all kinds of different designs can be used with this pattern effect. Hope you found this of interest. Any questions, please let me know in the comments below. A like or dislike, always appreciated. Always doing videos about Photoshop, Affinity Photo, and many, many other applications as well. Bye.